Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm 35, a single mom from Ohio, and last month my own sister did something I'll never forget. During my little boy's birthday party, she shoved his face into the cake I spent hours making, right in front of everyone. I thought it was a stupid prank at first, but what came after broke my family for good. Where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life family stories about betrayal, courage, and second chances. I can still hear the sound of everyone laughing, that nervous, hollow laughter that fills the air when no one knows what else to do. It was the moment my world quietly tilted. My 8-year-old son, Ethan, stood frozen, bits of frosting in his hair and tears spilling down his red cheeks, as my sister, Megan, forced an awkward smile and muttered, "Oh, come on, it's just a joke." Except it wasn't. Not for me. And certainly not for him. 1. The setup nobody saw coming. That morning I woke up early, determined to make everything perfect. It was the first birthday I'd hosted since my divorce from Paul, and I wanted it to feel normal for Ethan's sake. I spent the morning decorating the small backyard, hanging balloons from the fence, and setting up a long folding table I'd borrowed from a neighbor. I'd bought the cake the night before, chocolate, his favorite, with blue frosting that read, "Happy Birthday, Buddy," in thick white letters. I remember standing in the kitchen, looking at the cake box and feeling oddly proud. Things had been hard since Paul left, but I was making it work. Ethan had been quiet for months after the split, and seeing his excitement about his party gave me hope that maybe, just maybe, he was healing. Around noon, guests began to arrive, neighbors, a couple of Ethan's classmates, and my dad. The air was warm, sunlight filtering through the maple tree in the yard. It felt peaceful, like maybe we were finding our rhythm again. Until she showed up. To Megan's entrance. Megan wasn't invited. I didn't have the heart to tell her not to come, but we hadn't spoken properly in months. Ever since the divorce, her tone had changed. Less sisterly, more sharp. She'd always been the free spirit. Spontaneous, unpredictable, the one everyone called fun. But to me, she'd always been a storm. Beautiful from a distance, destructive up close. She walked in like she owned the place. Sunglasses on, phone in hand, carrying a small gift bag that looked like it came from a gas station. "Missed me?" she joked, setting the bag on the gift table. I forced a smile. "Hey, you made it." "Wouldn't miss my nephew's big day," she said, and for a moment I almost believed her. Ethan, being the sweet kid he is, hugged her right away. "Aunt Megan, did you bring me something cool?" She tousled his hair. "You'll have to wait and see, champ." Her voice was cheerful, but there was something in her eyes. A flicker of something darker. I told myself I was imagining it. 3. The moment everything broke. An hour later it was cake time. Everyone gathered around the table, cameras out, kids shouting with excitement. Ethan's eyes sparkled as I lit the candles. He leaned close, whispering, "Mom, I can't believe you found this cake. It's perfect." That's when it happened. As he leaned in to blow out the candles, Megan stepped behind him, laughing loudly, and shoved his face straight into the cake. Gasps. Laughter. Then silence. Ethan pulled back, frosting dripping down his chin, confusion twisting into tears. My hands trembled. For a moment I couldn't even move. Megan threw up her hands. "Relax, Nat. It's just a prank. Everybody does it." But nobody laughed anymore. Not really. The neighbors glanced at each other. My dad muttered something under his breath. I grabbed a napkin and rushed to Ethan, who was crying quietly, whispering, "Why would she do that?" My heart felt like it was splitting. I looked at Megan, and for the first time in my life I didn't see my sister. I saw someone who wanted to hurt me. The party that wouldn't end. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw her out of my house. But with everyone watching, kids, parents, neighbors, I just froze. I forced a smile and said softly, "It's okay, buddy, let's get you cleaned up." As I let Ethan inside, I could hear Megan behind me laughing nervously. "Oh, come on, Nat. Don't be so uptight. It's just frosting. Just frosting. Just humiliation. Just a lifetime of tension, wrapped in a single cruel gesture." Inside, I wiped Ethan's face with a warm towel. He sniffled. "Mom, did I do something wrong?" "No, sweetheart," I said, swallowing hard. "You did nothing wrong." When we came back outside, the atmosphere had changed. People were quiet, pretending everything was normal, but I could feel the unease. The laughter was gone. The lightness had vanished. Even the sun felt different, sharper somehow, too bright. Megan stood by the fence, arms crossed, scrolling through her phone. When our eyes met, she smirked. "You're so sensitive, Nat. It's not that deep." I didn't respond. I just gathered plates, cleaned crumbs, and counted the minutes until everyone would leave. 5. The quiet aftermath. By the time the guests were gone, I was running on fumes. My dad gave me a quick hug, whispering, "Let it go, sweetheart." She didn't mean it. But that sentence hit me harder than the incident itself, because it was the same thing he used to say when Megan hurt me as a kid. She didn't mean it. As if her intentions mattered more than the damage she caused. After everyone left, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the ruined cake. It looked almost symbolic now, half smashed, half perfect, much like our family. Ethan was in bed, exhausted from crying. I could hear him mumbling in his sleep, "I didn't like that, Mom." My chest ached. I knew this wasn't about the cake. It was about control. Megan had taken something pure, Ethan's joy, and twisted it into something cruel. My phone buzzed. A message from Megan. "Don't be mad. You're overreacting." It was supposed to be funny. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. "Noted." And then I blocked her number. But I couldn't sleep that night. The more I thought about her expression, the smirk, the glint in her eyes, the more something inside me began to shift. This wasn't random. She'd come here for a reason, and I was going to find out what it was. 6. A memory I couldn't ignore. As I cleaned up the last of the mess, I found myself thinking back to a family barbecue years ago. Megan had accidentally spilled a drink on my white dress right before family photos. Everyone laughed. I'd laughed too. But she'd whispered, "You always have to be the favorite, don't you?" That memory hit me like a brick. The tone, the timing, it was the same. Only now, instead of me, she'd humiliated my son. That wasn't a prank. It was payback. But for what? I stood by the kitchen window, looking at the moonlight reflecting on the frosting still smeared across the table. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew one thing for sure: this was not over. That birthday would become the line that divided my life into before and after. And everything after would change us forever. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan's face. Frosting smeared across his cheeks, confusion turning into tears, that small voice whispering, "Did I do something wrong?" It wasn't just a birthday ruined. It was something deeper, something that had been building for years. When morning came, the house felt too quiet. The leftover balloons hung half deflated by the window. The smell of sugar and icing clung to the air, reminding me that even sweet things could turn bitter. 1. The silence after the storm. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, eating a bowl of cereal without a word. Usually, he'd hum or tell me about his dreams. Today, he just stared at the table. "You okay, buddy?" I asked gently. He nodded but didn't look up. "Can we not invite Aunt Megan next year?" My heart twisted. "Yeah," I said softly. "We won't." He gave a small smile, the kind that fades before it fully forms. Then he went back to eating, his spoon clinking quietly against the bowl. I watched him for a while, realizing that something in him, that wide-eyed trust, had dimmed. After he left for school, I sat down with a cup of coffee and stared out the window. The yard still had confetti scattered across the grass. A couple of paper plates stuck under the bushes. I should have been cleaning, but all I could think about was her. What kind of sister does that? What kind of person thinks humiliating a child is funny? And yet, as angry as I was, I couldn't shake the deeper question: why now? Why show up after months of silence, only to destroy what little peace we had left? Two ghosts of the past. It's funny how the mind works. One cruel act, and suddenly old memories start crawling back like they've been waiting for the right moment. Megan and I were close once. At least I thought we were. When we were kids, she used to sneak into my room at night after our parents fought, crawling under the blanket beside me, whispering, "At least we've got each other." But as we got older, something shifted. She began to compete over everything: grades, attention, clothes. If I got praise, she'd find a way to tear it down. Mom would always say, "Oh, that's just Megan's way. She's playful." Playful. That word followed her into adulthood, excusing every jab, every backhanded compliment, every boundary she crossed. Even as I grew up, got married, had Ethan, she found new ways to remind me that she was still around. You've got the family now, she'd say with a laugh. I've just got my freedom. At the time I thought it was harmless teasing. But looking back I realized those little digs were cracks. Small ones spreading slowly until one day the whole thing broke. 3. Family advice that felt like blame. Around noon my phone buzzed. Dad. I hesitated before answering. He never called unless something was wrong. Hey sweetheart, he said, his voice calm but careful. I heard about what happened yesterday. Of course he did. Megan must have told him her version first. Yeah, I replied, keeping my tone even. He sighed. I know it wasn't right. But honey, your sister. She's going through a lot. You know how sensitive she is. Try not to take it so hard. My jaw tightened. Dad, she humiliated my son. I get it. I do. But you know Megan, she jokes too much, never thinks before she acts. She's always been like that. And that's supposed to make it okay? I asked. He paused. It's family, Nat. Sometimes we just have to let things go. I closed my eyes. The same script I'd been hearing my whole life. Megan acts out. Everyone tiptoes around her. When I hung up, I realized something. Forgiveness had always been expected of me, but never of her. She got to be impulsive. I had to be understanding. It was a pattern and I was done playing my part in it. 4. The family chat group disaster. That evening, while reheating leftovers for dinner, I got a notification from our family group chat, the Coopers, complete with a smiling emoji next to it. I hadn't checked it since the party. Megan had posted a picture. It was Ethan's birthday photo. The moment right before she shoved his face into the cake. Her caption read, "Can't believe this little guy is 8. Best day ever. Face with tears of joy birthday cake." I froze. I could see it clearly. Ethan leaning forward, eyes bright, completely unaware of what was coming. The comments were already piling up. Dad had reacted with a thumbs up. An aunt wrote, "Looks like such a fun day." Only one cousin, Sarah, commented, "Wait, did he cry after? Poor thing." My hand shook as I typed, "Megan, delete that photo. It's not funny." She replied almost instantly, "Relax, Nat. It's a cute memory. You're too uptight." That word again. Uptight. She'd used it my entire life. It was her favorite weapon, dismissing my feelings as overreactions. I typed another message, then deleted it. What was the point? She'd never see it the way I did. Ethan came into the kitchen right then, holding one of his toy trucks. "Mom, can I have some ice cream?" I smiled weakly. "Sure, baby." As I scooped vanilla into a bowl, I thought I won't let her touch him again. Not ever. 5. Ethan's question that broke me. Later that night, as I tucked him into bed, Ethan looked up at me and asked softly, "Mom, why doesn't Aunt Megan like us?" I froze mid-tuck. "What makes you think she doesn't like us?" He shrugged, staring at the ceiling. "She always says mean things to you. And she looked mad when I opened Grandpa's gift. Did I do something bad?" It took everything in me not to cry. I smoothed his hair and whispered, "No, honey. You didn't do anything bad. Some people hurt others because they're hurting inside. But that's not your fault, okay?" He nodded, eyes heavy, drifting toward sleep. I sat there for a long time after he closed his eyes. I couldn't shake the image. Megan standing by the fence, smirking as if she'd won something I didn't even know we were fighting over. 6. Old wounds reopened. The next day, I drove to my dad's house to drop off some groceries. He lived just outside town in a small white bungalow that still smelled like Mom's lavender candles. As soon as I walked in, I could tell he'd already spoken to Megan. "Nat," he began carefully, "I just talked to your sister. She feels terrible." I raised an eyebrow. "Did she say that, or did you?" He sighed. "She said she didn't mean to hurt Ethan. She thought it would make people laugh. You know how social media is these days. She posted it online, Dad." He looked uncomfortable. "She took it down." I sat down across from him. "Dad, do you ever notice how you always make excuses for her?" His eyes softened. "She's fragile, sweetheart." "And I'm what?" "Strong enough to be everyone's punching bag." He didn't answer. For the first time, the silence between us wasn't filled with guilt. It was filled with clarity. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I was finally seeing the pattern for what it was. 7. The apology that wasn't one. That evening I got a voicemail from Megan. Her voice was sweet, too sweet. "Hey Nat. I guess you're mad. I just wanted to say sorry if I embarrassed you. I didn't mean anything by it. You know how people can be too serious sometimes. Anyway, love you. Bye." Played it twice. She didn't apologize to Ethan. She didn't even admit what she did was wrong. I deleted the message without replying. But something about her tone stuck with me, defensive, almost smug. It wasn't guilt I heard. It was something else. Something colder. That's when I knew this wasn't over. Not because of a birthday cake, but because of what it represented. Years of her getting away with it. Years of me staying silent. 8. The unexpected ally. A few days later my cousin Sarah called. "I saw the video," she said quietly. "Video?" My heart dropped. "What video?" Megan posted a short clip on her story before deleting it. Someone screen recorded it. She was laughing right after she shoved him. Said something like, "Guess I'm still the fun aunt." I felt the blood rush to my face. "You're kidding." "No. I thought you should know. People in the family chat are whispering about it." I sat down, gripping the counter. That's when Sarah added, "Nat, I just want you to know you're not crazy." She crossed a line. Her words hit me harder than I expected. For the first time in days I didn't feel alone. 9. A quiet decision. That night I poured myself a cup of tea and sat on the porch, staring out at the quiet street. The cicadas hummed, the air smelled faintly of rain, and I realized I'd reached a breaking point. I didn't want revenge, not yet anyway. I wanted space. I wanted peace. I pulled out my phone and removed Megan from every contact list, blocked her on social media, and deleted the family group chat altogether. When I set the phone down I felt lighter. Not healed but freer. The truth was I didn't just lose a sister that day. I lost the illusion that she'd ever truly loved me the way I loved her. 10. A flicker of strength. As I got ready for bed I checked on Ethan one last time. He was asleep, hugging his stuffed bear, his face peaceful again. I whispered, "We're gonna be okay, buddy. I promise." Then I turned off the light, knowing something in me had shifted for good. For the first time I wasn't just surviving Megan's behavior. I was standing up to it. And though I didn't know what was coming next, I could feel it. The frosting had cracked, and the truth beneath it was starting to show. For a few days peace felt like a fragile miracle. The phone stayed silent. My social feeds were quiet. Ethan laughed again. Not the forced laughter he'd used to cover confusion, but the genuine kind that came from deep inside. It was like the house could breathe again. But silence has a way of revealing things you didn't want to hear. And peace, I've learned, can sometimes be the pause before another storm. 1. The unexpected envelope. It was a Thursday morning when I found it. A plain cream-colored envelope sitting on my porch. No stamp. No name. At first I thought it was one of Ethan's school reminders or a flyer. But when I picked it up, I noticed the handwriting. Familiar. Elegant. Sharp. Megan's. My stomach tightened. I stood there for a full minute before tearing it open. Inside was a folded piece of paper. No greeting, no signature, just a few handwritten lines. "You always thought you were the better sister. But maybe you should ask Dad what really happened that summer." It's funny how memories get sugar-coated, isn't it? No punctuation. No explanation. Just that. I stared at it until the words blurred. That summer? My mind raced through years of memories. Sleepovers, fights, birthdays, weddings, but that summer hit like an itch I couldn't scratch. There was only one summer that stood out. The one Mom left for a few weeks after her surgery, when Dad had kept us at Grandma's. But what could that possibly have to do with anything now? Still, something in those words unsettled me. Like a door I didn't remember closing had suddenly been cracked open. 2. The unwelcome visit. That evening I heard a knock on the door. When I opened it, Dad was standing there holding a paper bag from the diner. "I brought you dinner," he said with a tired smile. "Thought you could use a night off." I let him in, trying to hide the storm brewing inside me. We sat at the table eating in silence for a while. He kept glancing at me like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Finally I asked, "Dad, what happened that summer?" He froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. What do you mean? Megan left me a note. She said I should ask you what really happened that summer. The one when Mom was recovering. His fork clattered onto the plate. For a moment he didn't move. Then he rubbed his forehead, sighing deeply. Nat, that was a long time ago. Why would she bring that up now? You tell me, I said, leaning forward. He shook his head. It was nothing. You were both just kids. Megan had a hard time back then. She was confused. Confused about what? He looked away. It doesn't matter anymore. The way his voice wavered told me it mattered a lot. 3. The memory that wouldn't stay buried. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying that summer in fragments. We'd been at Grandma's house for weeks. The air smelled like lemon polish and garden soil. Megan was moody, distant one day, overly cheerful the next. Dad visited every few days but never stayed long. He'd always say, "Work's keeping me busy," but even then I'd felt there was more to it. And then there was that one night. I'd woken up to voices in the kitchen, low, tense whispers. Grandma's and Dad's. "She's not ready," Grandma had said. "You can't just pretend it didn't happen." Dad's voice was sharp, desperate. "It's for the best. Natalie doesn't need to know." I hadn't known what they were talking about. I was 12. I went back to bed, thinking it was one of those grown-up secrets that didn't matter. But now, 2 decades later, it suddenly mattered more than anything. 4. A stranger's comment. 2 days later, I was at the grocery store, distracted and exhausted. As I reached for a box of cereal, someone called my name. Natalie. I turned. It was Mrs. Reed, my old neighbor from Grandma Street. I hadn't seen her in years. "Wow, it's been forever," she said, smiling warmly. "How's your sister?" I hesitated. "We're not really talking right now." She nodded sympathetically. "Ah, that's too bad. I always thought you two were inseparable after that summer." That summer. My pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" She frowned, like realizing she'd said too much. "Oh, I just remember your dad coming by a lot back then. He seemed so worried. Your grandma told me one of you girls had an accident? I can't recall which one. Was it Megan?" "An accident?" I asked, heart pounding. She shrugged. "Maybe I'm remembering wrong. You were both so young." But something in her tone, uncertain yet knowing, told me she wasn't wrong. 5. The search for clues. That night, after putting Ethan to bed, I pulled out an old photo box from the closet. Inside were years of memories, birthdays, school plays, family vacations, but I was looking for one thing. Photos from that summer. There were only a few. Most showed Megan and me sitting by Grandma's rose bushes, both smiling too hard. But one photo caught my attention. A picture of Megan with a small bandage on her temple. Her eyes looked puffy, like she'd been crying. On the back, in Mom's handwriting, it said, "Summer '03 girls at Mom's house." I flipped through the rest. No more photos from that time. Nothing from Dad's visits. Nothing from the week Mom returned home. It was like someone had erased a part of our history. The call I didn't expect. The next morning my phone buzzed. Sarah again. "I think you should see this," she said. "Megan's been posting cryptic stuff on her private account." I blocked her. "I know, but someone sent me screenshots." I hesitated, then said, "What kind of stuff?" Sarah exhaled. "Things like, funny how lies age better than truth. And some people forget who protected them." My stomach dropped. "Protected them?" "Sarah," I whispered. "What if she's not just being dramatic this time?" Sarah paused. "Maybe it's time you ask your mom. She'd know more than your dad ever said." 7 Mom's half-truths. That afternoon I drove across town to see Mom. She was folding laundry when I arrived, her silver hair pinned back neatly as always. "Mom," I started carefully, "do you remember the summer you had surgery and we stayed at Grandma's?" She looked up, her hands freezing mid-fold. "Of course. Why?" "Megan sent me a note. Something about asking Dad what really happened that summer." "Did something happen?" She sighed heavily, sitting down. "Natalie, there are things you don't need to dig up. That time was painful for everyone." "So something did happen." Her eyes flickered with hesitation. "You were young. You don't remember everything. Megan had a difficult moment. She felt neglected. Your father was trying to manage everything alone while I recovered. Difficult moment? I pressed. She looked down. She ran away for 2 days. My heart skipped. What? She was 12, Mom said quietly. We found her at an old park near Grandma's. She'd scraped her head. That's why she had the bandage. After that, your father decided not to tell you. He thought you'd blame yourself. Blame myself for what? Mom's eyes filled with tears. Because she said she ran away after hearing something she shouldn't have. Something about you. I felt cold all over. What did she hear? Mom shook her head. I don't know. Your father never told me. But she came back different. Distant. Angry. And she's carried that anger ever since. 8. The truth I never saw. That night I sat in the car outside my house for a long time. Megan had run away because of me. I tried to remember anything that could have triggered it. We were both 12 that summer, both fragile in our own ways. Then it hit me, something small, almost forgotten. Dad had taken me on a special outing one weekend while Megan stayed home with Grandma. He said it was a surprise. We went to the zoo, then out for ice cream. I'd been thrilled. He'd never done something like that just for me. But when we came home, Megan wouldn't talk to me for days. Grandma had scolded Dad in hushed tones that night, and I'd heard Megan crying in the next room. Could it be that simple? Could she have overheard something, a conversation, a confession, that made her believe Dad loved me more? It sounded childish, but sometimes the wounds that hurt most come from the stories we tell ourselves. 9. A painful confrontation. By Sunday I couldn't hold it in anymore. I called Megan. She didn't answer, but a few minutes later she texted back. Did you find out yet? My fingers trembled as I replied. I know about that summer. About you running away. But I still don't understand why you hate me. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then came back. Finally her reply came. Because you were his favorite. Because you got the childhood I didn't. Because every time I cried, he told me to be more like you. I stared at the message, my heart breaking and burning all at once. She hated me not for what I did, but for what I represented. I typed back slowly. I didn't take anything from you, Megan. You just decided to hate me for things neither of us could control. This time there was no reply. 10. The quiet realization. That night I sat by Ethan's bed again, watching him sleep. His breathing was steady, soft. I thought about the cycle. Sisters turned rivals, kindness turned to bitterness, love turned to envy. Megan's cruelty had always been personal, but the truth behind it wasn't. It was inherited pain, something passed down quietly like an unwanted heirloom. The truth that hid in plain sight wasn't about one summer, or even one act. It was about all the years I tried to earn love that was supposed to be unconditional. And in her twisted way, maybe Megan was doing the same. As I turned off the lamp, I whispered to the dark. I see it now. I finally see it. Outside, the wind picked up, brushing against the window. And though the night felt heavy, it also carried something new. The fragile beginning of understanding, and the faint echo of the truth finally being set free. The night I thought I'd finally found peace, my phone buzzed again. It was almost midnight. Ethan was asleep and the house was still, but that one vibration felt like a tremor under calm ground. I reached for the phone, half expecting another text from Megan. Another jab disguised as truth. But it wasn't her. It was from my dad. Family group message. Please read. My heart sank before I even opened it. The family group chat was our digital version of a dinner table. A place where things were said, ignored, misunderstood, and sometimes weaponized. I tapped it open, and the first thing I saw made my chest tighten. Dad, I think it's time we clear the air. We can't keep avoiding what happened between you two. It's tearing this family apart. No hello. No warning. Just straight into the storm. Within seconds, the typing bubbles started popping up. 1. The first sparks. Mom. Please, John, not like this. This isn't the place. Dad. It's the only place anyone actually listens anymore. Megan. Are you serious right now? Me. What's going on? I barely hit send before Megan's reply came in, fast and cutting. Megan. You want to clear the air? Fine. Why don't you tell her what really happened instead of letting me look like the villain? My throat went dry. Megan, stop. Not here. Megan. Oh, now you care where we talk about it? After 20 years of pretending. I could almost hear her voice through the screen, sharp, bitter, full of something that wasn't just anger but years of buried resentment clawing to get out. 2. The truth goes public. Dad. Enough, both of you. We're not doing this to hurt each other. Megan. Then say it, Dad. Say what happened that summer. The typing bubbles froze. Seconds stretched. Then finally. Dad. You ran away, Megan. You scared your mother half to death. You refused to talk to anyone. Natalie had nothing to do with it. I exhaled slowly, feeling a flicker of relief. But Megan wasn't done. Megan. Nothing to do with it? She's the reason it happened. You took her out that weekend, told her how proud you were, how she was your favorite. You think I didn't hear that? The words hit me like a slap. I remembered that day, the zoo, the ice cream, Dad smiling more than I'd seen in months. I hadn't realized someone else was listening. The chat went silent for a moment. Then Mom's message appeared. Mom. Megan, your father never said that. You misunderstood. Megan. No, I didn't. You all made me feel like a mistake my whole life. My hands trembled as I read her words. She wasn't lashing out at me anymore. She was unraveling completely. Right there in a group chat meant for weekend updates and birthday wishes. 3. The screenshots. Just as I started typing a response, another message appeared. One that froze me. Megan. And since we're being honest, why don't you ask Natalie why she's been checking Paul's page every week? Don't play innocent, sis. I see your name in his story views. The room seemed to tilt. Me. What are you talking about? He's Ethan's father, of course I check his updates. Megan. Sure. Just his updates. Want me to send screenshots? And then she did. 3 screenshots appeared. All showing my name among Paul's followers, my short comments under old photos of Ethan and Paul together. They were innocent. But out of context they looked like something else, like obsession or worse, lingering attachment. Mom. Megan, stop this right now. That's cruel. Megan. Cruel? She's been playing the victim while keeping tabs on my boyfriend. Boyfriend. The word hit me like a physical blow. 4. The hidden connection. Me. What did you just say? Megan. You heard me. Paul and I have been seeing each other. Not that it's any of your business. The world blurred. My fingers went numb. I stared at the screen waiting for anyone to say she was lying. But no one did. Even Dad didn't respond right away. Then finally. Dad. Megan, please tell me that's not true. Megan. Why shouldn't it be? He's single. So am I. We found something in common, pain apparently. I couldn't breathe. Not because of the betrayal. I'd already suspected some connection between them. But because she'd chosen to reveal it like this. In a chat where Ethan's grandparents, aunts, and uncles were all reading. 5. The fallout. The flood of messages that followed blurred together. Mom begging everyone to stop. Uncles chiming in with shocked emojis and, "What's going on?" Cousins quietly exiting the group one by one. I sat frozen, staring at the glowing screen. Me. You humiliated my son at his birthday because you were sleeping with his father? For once, Megan didn't reply right away. Then, Megan. I did what I did because you've always taken everything from me. Even him. My hand shook as I typed. Me, you took him. You took the one man who should have known better. And you destroyed what little trust one had left. Megan. You never deserved him. You never deserved the love people gave you. I dropped the phone. The messages kept coming, but I couldn't read anymore. All I could hear was Ethan's breathing from his room down the hall. He was asleep, blissfully unaware that his mother and aunt were tearing each other apart through glowing blue bubbles. 6. The phone call that broke me. The next morning Mom called. Her voice trembled. Sweetheart, she's out of control. She's been calling everyone, trying to defend herself. I don't know what to do. Do nothing, I said flatly. Let her dig her own hole. Mom sighed. You don't understand. She thinks you're turning the family against her. She's posting things online now. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Of course she is. Sure enough, when I opened Facebook, there it was, a vague post on Megan's wall. It's funny how family pretends to care when all they want is to see you fall. Underneath, mutual relatives had commented with heart emojis and, "Ignore the haters, you're strong." The comment that hurt most came from Paul. "Proud of you." That was it. 3 simple words. But they cut deeper than anything Megan had said. 7. The family intervention. By Saturday, the damage was done. Mom invited everyone over to talk like adults. I didn't want to go, but something in me, anger, maybe needed to face it. When I arrived, Megan was already there, sitting stiffly on the couch. Paul wasn't with her, but his presence lingered in the tension that filled the room. Dad stood near the window, arms crossed. Mom looked exhausted. "Natalie," Dad started, "this has gone too far. We need to stop this before." "Before what?" I interrupted. "Before she posts more lies? Or before you have to admit you've always let her do whatever she wants?" Megan rolled her eyes. "Here we go again." "No," I snapped. "You don't get to play the victim this time. You humiliated my child. You slept with my ex. And now you're parading it online like some kind of victory. Maybe I just got tired of watching you play perfect all these years." She shot back. "You've always been everyone's favorite, Dad's, Mom's, even Paul's." I finally stopped waiting for someone to choose me. Her words cracked something open inside me. Not sympathy, not pity, but clarity. "You didn't want love," I said quietly. "You wanted revenge." The room went silent. Even the clock seemed to stop ticking. Megan's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed hard. "Maybe I did." 8. The message that ended it all. That night, after the disastrous meeting, I decided to leave the family group chat for good. But before I could, one final message appeared from Dad. "Dad, I'm ending this chat. We've said enough. Some wounds can't heal here." And then, "This group has been deleted." Just like that, years of shared photos, jokes, and small talk disappeared. I sat there staring at the empty screen, realizing how something as small as a text message could dismantle a family. 9. The silence after the storm. Days turned into weeks. No one called. No one texted. It was like the group chat had been the only thread keeping us connected. And now that it was gone, everyone scattered. Ethan noticed the silence too. "Mom," he asked one morning, "why hasn't Aunt Megan come by?" I smiled weakly. "She's busy, honey." He frowned. "But I wanted to show her my drawing." My throat tightened. "You can show me instead." He grinned and held up a picture of a house with 2 stick figures, me and him. No one else. 10. The final push. One night weeks later, I got a message from an unknown number. "You won, Natalie. Happy now." I didn't respond, but as I stared at the words, I realized I hadn't won anything. The family chat group disaster hadn't just exposed secrets. It had burned every bridge that could have led us back to each other. And for the first time, I stopped trying to fix what was broken. Because maybe some things are meant to stay shattered, not out of hate, but because peace sometimes requires silence, and forgiveness often starts where conversation ends. The silence didn't end suddenly. It lingered thick, almost sacred, in every corner of my house. For weeks, my phone stayed unnervingly quiet. No group chats, no calls from Mom asking if I'd seen the latest photo Megan posted. No awkward apologies that didn't sound like apologies. Just the faint hum of ordinary life. The clatter of dishes, the ticking clock, and Ethan's laughter drifting through the walls. And maybe for the first time, that silence didn't feel like loss. It felt like breathing. Still, some nights the quiet was too heavy. It pressed against me, filled with words unsaid and memories that wouldn't fade. Healing, I was learning, didn't arrive as light or clarity. It came as confusion, resistance, and the slow realization that nothing would ever be quite the same. 1. The garden. It started with the garden. I hadn't touched it since last spring. The small patch of soil in the backyard that once bloomed with daisies and lavender now looked like a forgotten battlefield. Dead stems, cracked earth, a faded shovel leaning against the fence. One Saturday morning, Ethan peeked through the window and asked, "Mom, are you ever going to fix the flowers?" I smiled faintly. "Maybe." He tilted his head. "Grandpa said plants can hear you. You just have to talk to them." It was such an innocent thing to say, but it struck me. Maybe I hadn't been listening to anything or anyone, not even myself. So that afternoon I went outside. The air smelled faintly of rain, the kind that lingers without falling. I knelt down, feeling the dirt under my nails for the first time in months. At first, I didn't know what I was doing. My hands moved automatically, pulling weeds, loosening roots, brushing away what was dead. But as I worked, something inside me softened. Every broken stem felt like a small confession. You can't control what grows, but you can choose what to nurture. And maybe that was the beginning of healing, not forgiveness, not closure, just tending to what was still alive. 2. The unexpected visit. It was late afternoon when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a moment my stomach clenched, old habits of dread returning too easily. When I opened the door, Mom stood there, clutching a small brown box. Her eyes looked tired, the way people look when they've been pretending everything's fine for too long. "Hi, sweetheart," she said softly. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, then nodded. She set the box on the table. "I found some of your things while cleaning the attic. Thought you might want them back." Inside were old family photos, birthdays, vacations, holidays where Megan and I were both still smiling. I stared at one picture of us as kids, sitting side by side with matching frosting-smeared faces. Mom's voice broke the silence. "She misses you, you know." I didn't look up. "Does she?" "She won't admit it. But she's been quiet lately. Different." I traced a finger over Megan's frozen smile in the photo. "Different doesn't always mean better." Mom sighed. "You both lost something. But you're the only one who might still know how to rebuild it." I shook my head. "No, Mom. I rebuilt myself. That has to be enough." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded, as if finally understanding something she'd been trying to force for years. "Maybe it is." 3. The letter. A week later, a plain white envelope arrived in the mail. No return address. Just my name written in Megan's familiar, looping handwriting. I stared at it for hours before opening it. "Natalie, I don't know how to start this except to say I'm sorry, not for everything but for the parts that were mine. I won't pretend to justify what I did. I was angry, and I let that anger swallow every good thing that was left between us. I thought I was breaking you, but I was really breaking myself. You don't have to forgive me. I wouldn't if I were you. But I hope you find peace, even if it doesn't include me." I sat there holding the letter, feeling a dozen emotions collide. It wasn't an apology that fixed anything, but it was real. It wasn't rehearsed or polished. It felt like the kind of honesty that can only come after everything's already burned down. I folded it carefully and placed it in my drawer. Not to forget it, but to remember that even broken things can still speak truth. 4. The school project. One evening, Ethan came home from school clutching a colorful poster board. "We're doing a family tree project," he announced. My stomach tightened again. "Oh, that sounds fun." He nodded enthusiastically. "I need pictures of everyone: Grandma, Grandpa, Aunt Megan, and Uncle Ryan. Can you help me print them?" For a moment I wanted to say no. To tell him to leave her out, to spare both of us the discomfort. But then I saw the look on his face. Pure excitement, untouched by the bitterness adults carry. "Of course," I said. "Let's do it together." That night, we sat on the living room floor surrounded by scattered photos. When he picked up one of Megan holding him as a baby, he smiled. "I remember her laugh," he said. I blinked back tears. "Yeah," I whispered. "She had a good one." He looked up at me. "Can we send her a copy of my project when it's done?" It was such an innocent request, but it carried the weight of everything I hadn't been ready to face. I took a deep breath. "Yes, we can." And for the first time, I realized that maybe forgiveness doesn't start with words. It starts with allowing someone's name to be spoken again without bitterness attached. 5. The coffee shop. 2 weeks later, I found myself standing outside a coffee shop I hadn't been to in years. Megan had texted me just one line. "Can we meet? Just for coffee. No drama. Promise." I almost deleted it. But something about the word promise made me pause. When I walked in, she was already there, sitting at a corner table, her hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, but in spirit, like all the sharp edges that once defined her had finally dulled. "Hi," I said quietly. Her eyes lifted. "Hi." We sat in silence for a while. The kind of silence that wasn't hostile anymore, just cautious, fragile. Finally she spoke. I shouldn't have done any of it. The posts, the things I said. I wasn't trying to destroy you. I was just tired of being invisible. I nodded slowly. I know that feeling more than you think. She looked at me, eyes glistening. Do you hate me? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No. I just don't recognize you anymore. Megan exhaled shakily. Neither do I. Something in that honesty loosened the air between us. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just sat there. Two sisters sharing silence, letting the noise of the world fill in what words couldn't fix. And somehow that was enough. 6. The quiet return. After that day, Megan didn't try to force things. She'd text me occasionally, short, harmless things like, Ethan's birthday next week. Want me to bring cupcakes? Or, Mom said your garden looks alive again. And I'd reply cautiously but kindly. It wasn't reconciliation, it was re-entry. A slow, deliberate return to something resembling family, one message at a time. Ethan noticed too. One evening he whispered, Mom, I saw Aunt Megan at Grandma's. She waved at me. Did you wave back? I asked. He nodded, grinning. Yeah. She smiled. That smile, small as it was, meant more than any apology ever could. 7. The new beginning. By late summer, the garden had bloomed again. Lavender, daisies, and a single stubborn rose bush that refused to die despite the damage of winter. I stood there one morning, coffee in hand, watching the petals sway gently in the breeze. Healing, I realized, wasn't a straight path, it was a spiral. You return to the same pain over and over until it stops hurting the same way. The memories were still there. The betrayal still existed. But the ache had softened into something I could live with. Something that no longer defined me. Mom visited that afternoon, carrying a tray of lemon bars. You've changed, she said, looking around the garden. Maybe, I smiled. Or maybe I just stopped trying to be who everyone else wanted me to be. She touched my arm gently. That's what real healing looks like. 8. The last text. One night just before bed my phone buzzed again. It was Megan. I saw the photo you posted of your garden. It's beautiful. Dad would have loved it. My throat tightened. Thanks, I typed back. You should come see it sometime. A moment later the 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then, maybe I will. I smiled, setting the phone down beside me. It wasn't a promise. It wasn't closure. But it was hope, and that was more than enough. 9. The meaning of healing. As I turned off the lights that night, I realized healing wasn't about forgetting or pretending the cracks never existed. It was about learning to live with them, to see beauty in imperfection, strength in vulnerability, and peace in silence. The family chat might have died, but something else had been born quietly in its place. A fragile thread of understanding, spun not from obligation but from choice. Megan and I would never be what we once were. But we didn't need to be. Sometimes healing means accepting that some chapters don't close, they just fade into the background, making room for new ones to begin. And as I lay there listening to the soft hum of the night, I knew one thing for certain. The storm had passed. And what remained wasn't ruin, it was rebirth.